Good morning, Angel. My name is Valentina Quiroz, and with my group, Giselle Mancino and Linda Zavaleta, we are going to discuss the question why governments haven't stopped nuclear proliferation. We're going to try to give you an introduction and explain the history about this big problem and mention the countries that are involved in this big problem that affects all the world. Okay, now we're going to try to know about the history or the first time that we heard about this word. Nuclear proliferation began during the Second World War and with the development of the first nuclear weapons by the United States under the Manhattan Project. And the first successful test occurred on July 16 in 1945 in New Mexico. And thereafter, the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, uh, leading to Japan's surrender. We can say that these events mark the start of the nuclear age. We also have to know that the Soviet Union tested its first nuclear bomb in 1949, initiating a Cold War arms race. And we can say that it's response to the growing trade, and the United Nations proposed to the Baruch plans in 1945 aiming to control nuclear weapons, but it fails due to genotypical tension on all the things that happened in that moment. Okay, we can start saying that since the first atomic bomb that exploded in 1945, the world has the first nuclear war. Despite the threats and sanctions, more countries kept developing these weapons. But why? The answer lies in power, fear, and the failures of diplomacy. Today, we can say that 9 countries have nuclear weapons and others are trying to join them. So, I have a question like, why haven't governments stopped the spread? Let's break it down. Okay, but after talking about this topic, we have to know what it is a nuclear proliferation, and we can say that it's mean the spread of nuclear weapons to no countries, and we can say that each country has this power, and we have 5 nuclear powers. That is the U.S., obviously, Russia, China, UK, and French, and they are recognized under the Non-Proliferation Treaty or NPT, but others like India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea developed them anyway. Okay, nowadays we can say that the US and Russia still have over the 19% of the world nukes, and while smaller arsenal in countries like Pakistan and North Korea create regional threats. But we can say that countries pursue nukes for 2 main reasons. Maybe the first one is the fear of being attacked. For example, North Korea versus the U.S. And the prestige. Being a nuclear power means a global influence, and you know that maybe the countries that have more of these weapons, it's symbol of power or everything that's maybe and with like and a small problem or a situation, they could be like a big band because you know that they have like and the help of these weapons.
Why governments haven't stopped it? We have a few reasons for it. The reason number one would be the national security and the deterrence trap. The Cold War doctrine of mutually assured destruction, the MAD, still shapes thinking today. If one country has nukes, rivals feel they must to creating an endless cycle. For example, we have India that tested nukes in 1974, and then Pakistan responded by building its own. Now, both risk nuclear war over Kashmir. The second reason that we have is the geopolitical hypocrisy. Powerful nations often block disarmament while punishing others. The US keeps its nukes, but pressures Iran to abandon its program. This double standard fuels resentment. In 2018, the US left the Iran nuclear deal, even though Iran was compliant. Now, Iran is closer than ever to a bomb. And then we have the last one, but not least important. The reason number three is the weak enforcement. Treaties like the NPT rely on trust, but cheaters often go unpunished. For example, North Korea faced decades of sanctions, yet is still building nukes. Why? Because China and Russia often block stronger measures.
Can we solve it? We have three options to try to solve this problem. And the first is that we need the stronger treaties and oversight. And for example, the nuclear non-proliferation treaty has slowed the spread of nuclear weapons, but it has weakness. The agency responsible for monitoring it, the IAEA, needs more legal and technological tools to act in credible suspicions. And currently, the IAEA depends on the cooperation of the country being inspected, and also a high level diplomatic meetings, which allows some governments to block or delay these inspections. Cases like Iran or North Korea show how violations can go unpunished or be delayed, and we think that an important proposal can be the automatic sanctions, greater access to satellite technology, and also a rapid international responses system. The option number two is the global disarmament, where it's very important to prevent war and armed conflict, reduce the risk of weapons falling into the hands of terrorists, save resources, economic, environmental, human, promote international peace and security. And we know that many argue that the only true solution is for no country to possess nuclear weapons. In theory, that would prevent both use and proliferation. The idea of global nuclear disarmament has been championed by figures like Ban Ki-moon and campaigns like ICANN, International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons. However, powers like the USA, Russia, China, India, and Pakistan see their arsenals as essential to national security. And there is also deep mistrust between rival powers, like the USA and China, making multilateral commitments difficult. And a measure of the international security system will be needed to guarantee protection without nuclear deterrence. As we can see, the option number three is managing the threat, and it's basic like encourage communication between nuclear and military powers to reduce tensions and misunderstandings. Also, treat the crisis headlines, and bilateral meetings reduce the risk of accidental war. For example, if we cannot eliminate nuclear weapons, we can at least prevent their accidental or impulsive use. No first use policies have been suggested as more ethical and responsible deterrence. And the investment in early warming systems, artificial intelligence, and crisis diplomacy can prevent misunderstandings from escalating into nuclear war. For example, we know that the famous red foam hotline between Washington and Moscow during the Cold War helped avoid a big disasters. Well, in conclusion, the proliferation continues, fueled by fear, ambition, and lack of trust between nations. Without through political will and without major powers making sacrifices to any solution will be temporary. Time is running out and the risks remain. Also, the world doesn't need more declarations of good intentions, but concrete actions, starting with those who hold the most power and the most weapons. As long as weapons continue to be seen as guarantees of security and symbol of status, any solution will be remain fragile. True global security will only be possible when cooperation, transparency, and disarmament are treated as existential priorities rather than secondary concerns. So, thank you. That's it.